Okay, it is 8:32 and welcome to week number 2 of Drugs and Crime. And I'm Professor Richard Wright, and I'll be here for roughly for the next hour or so, sharing details and information about the assignments for week 2, what is necessary. I do want to let you know that week 1 assignments will be graded by Friday by 11:59 p.m. Friday night, and I also want to make sure that everybody understands the importance of getting their assignments in on time. Remember, this past week that your initial posts and reply posts were due Saturday. However, I gave until Sunday for those posts. And then your written assignments, which were due Sunday, I gave until Monday to get them in. So anybody who got their assignments in, written assignments in, not counting the discussion posts by Monday, the end of the day, would get full credit without any late points taken off. Other than that, that should bring you up to speed in terms of it as I grade. Okay, so let's get right into sharing my screen. And here we are. Okay. So you can tell that the rubrics are in each written assignment. Each written assignment is no longer called course projects in this course, so let's fix that. I'm getting ready to take this out. Because we don't have, this was in the old course. So let's submit that. Okay. So someone looks at it and they'll say, what about the course projects? No, written assignments located in each written assignment. Okay, and then tonight you see this is week 2. Each week we will have lectures on Wednesdays, all the way up until the end. I think, yeah. Okay. So your recordings will be under here. This is a recording from week 1. Week 2 will be over here. So let's take a look at the course calendar. This shows you where we are now. We're at the 18th, your written reading assignment, which I sent you the PowerPoints. So we're going to look at a video tonight, Freakonomics of Drug Dealing, which is very interesting. And then your initial post. We'll do yesterday, mandatory sentences for drug-related crimes. And then your reply post is due Saturday. And then your written assignment. History of drug and alcohol-related legislation is due this Sunday, along with your quiz, which is timed. And so that's the way we operate, okay? So that's the calendar. Then reminding you that, once again, the course ends December the 18th. And you see our last lecture will be the 16th. It will be the 16th, 2 days before that. So, and actually, I think week 6, let me check something. I think I'm right about what I'm going to say. Yeah, week 6, you have your final exam and other things there. So we'll get to that there. So now let's go back to look at the announcements. Okay, so for the announcement, history of legislation relating to drug use and abuse. That's the topic of this week's lecture. Chapters 5 and 8 of the textbook, Drugs, Crime, and Justice. I sent you the PowerPoints for that. Regulation of drug precursors, regulation of synthetic drugs, freakonomic, crack dealing, and then finally drug activity laws, the discussion assignment, mandatory sentencing for drug-related crimes. An initial post, as I said, is due to last night. The reply post Saturday. And then your written assignment, history of drug and alcohol-related legislation and policies, and the quiz are due Sunday, 11:59 p.m. Adversity is the springboard to success. I've been really busy. I'm going to try to get this finished for you so you will be able to understand more about why I am the way that I am. I could have included it in week 1, but it would have made it last 2 hours and maybe 30 minutes. And I didn't want that, do that to you. Okay. So now let's dive right into the week assignments. So your discussion, you're going to deal with this fact pattern here, and you're going to discuss whether you agree or disagree that the sentence is proper that Mary received, and you're going to determine what the impact of Mary's mandatory sentencing have on prison population, and then the reply post, respond to a student with a different argument. And again, I told you when to post your assignments. So your written assignment, history of drug and alcohol related legislation policies. Remember the scenario that you got during week 1. You remember the scenario? You can type in the chat box if you remember the scenario or you have the scenario. Do you have that scenario saved up? Okay, good. I had told everybody, I says, to make sure that they download it and save it because you're going to use it every week. And so this scenario will deal with Dave's drug involvement. Okay. So in this assignment this week, you're going to need to address the following resource. Explain the federal drug level that applies to each of the drugs that Dave uses. So you got to know what the chart says. Describe what the federal and state laws are regarding the legality of each drug that Dave used. And that's in the fact pattern, remember. Make sure to identify what state you are referencing as well. Compare how today's state and federal legislation concerning drug use, illegal use, and alcohol differ from before 1996. Compare to how law enforcement policies concerning drug abuse, illegal use, and drug use differ from prior to 1996. Identify how the state and federal legislation and law enforcement policies prior to 1996 could affect Dave's sentencing. So what you're going to do is you're going to put this in the form of a brochure or flyer. Now, make sure that you do that. Now, remember, this is how you're doing this, in the form of a brochure or flyer. It should be a Word document. It says refer to current literature. So in other words, current information to support as sources. Provide a minimum of 2 credible sources as APA formatted references. Make sure that you cite those sources too in the body of your assignment itself. Use professional language and grammar and stuff like that. Okay. And then this tells you how to do infographic, brochure. I think if most of you did a brochure or a flyer, you'd be okay. And then this is federal laws and National Drug Control Safety Report. All right. Make sure it's a Microsoft Word document. Very, very, very important. Now, here's the rubric along with these facts that you want to satisfy. Due Sunday for possible 60 points. Here is the rubric. Remember what I said. What's the most important column that you should pay attention to in this rubric? The one far right or the far left? That's right. That's right. It should speak right there. But what I have said when I use this same rubric that, by the way, the school has prepared and given to me, I at first didn't like it, but I kind of like it now, is that it forces my students to understand how to get from, this is A work, this might be B, this might be C, this might be D and F. So if, again, remember I told you, don't ask me how to become a B or a C or a D student in my class. I said that last lecture when I talked about never ask me that question. So I tell my students, don't even pay attention to these first three. Just make sure that you satisfy the requirements here, because there's a big difference. Look, it's half the points all the way from here to here. Here it is 7 points, so you lose 1 point here. Here you lose 2 points. So you see when you get down to B, 2 points here, 2 points here, 2 points here, 3 points for credible sources, and then your language. Okay, so now the key thing that you want to do is, and this, you want to satisfy each of these sections. Now there's a little different the way they have me grading this one. If you don't have credible sources before, I would only have you over here. However, for each section, I will grade depending on what you do. So if you satisfy all the requirements here, you know, explanation of the drug schedule for each of the drugs Dave uses. It's not a lot of them. And the state that you're referring to, or federal law, and then the state and federal legislation literacy. Compare how the state and federal operate different prior to 1996, and then provide credible sources. If you don't supply credible sources, notice what it does. If you don't, you go all the way over here because you don't have minimal. So if you have minimal, you're going to get here. So make sure you have plenty, enough to get you in here or in here. But if you don't have any, so here's what can happen. You can do this well and get 8. Then you can do this poorly by leaving out credible sources and only get 6. If I don't see credible sources, you're going to get 6. Okay, and you may not get 10 here because you may not be able to do it without it. Then when you get down to law enforcement policies and information, notice here, same thing, credible sources from 12. You'll drop all the way, excuse me, woo. Sorry about that. Woo. But anyway, you'll drop all the way from 12 to 6. Thank you. So the point of the matter is, it's important for you to understand credible sources. Remember, credible sources are what's contained in the body of the paper, not just the references. A lot of students don't get that part. They put citations, no, they put references at the end. I said, that's not going to cut it. It's got to be APA. And APA calls for citations in the body and references at the end. I can't say that enough. If you put cite references at the end, you're going to end up over here. You'll say, oh, but I got credible sources. You have them listed, but they're not included in your written assignment. That should be abundantly clear. And that's where a lot of students mess up. I first used this rubric in Introduction to Corrections, and so many students got low grades only because, I mean, when I grade it, I do look for the issues and spot them. And if I don't see any credible sources, I already know what I got to do. I got to start at the far column to the left. So anyway, his sentence, identification of how the state and federal law, and then details of sentences and how it applies. Then the format and setup, refer to current literature to support your ideas through digital resource. Once again, the point of the matter is you got to have current sources, and yes, you're going to have to cite them. Credible sources are cited in APA format. Didn't I just say that earlier? Did I say that? I know, but I keep having to say it. I apologize to those of you who get it right away. I really sincerely do. But I can tell you, I'm the one who has to grade these papers, and I promise you, people are going to end up with 1s and 5s and things like that, because no credible sources provided. There's no way I can put you in attempted citation of credible sources with errors. By the way, with errors, what that means is you're not properly APA citing the information. Okay, with errors, with minor errors. But this is what you want to do. You want to do this. But you want to get into the habit of doing that anyway, because one day you're going to have to do an assignment for a boss. I'm telling you. And then finally, the professional language, dealing with spelling, grammar, and punctuation. Okay, so that's it. But I'm telling you, if you pay attention to each one of these boxes and say, did I or did I not satisfy what's in this box? If not, then you got to figure out how to do it so you can get your 8, so you can get your 12, which is 20. This is 32. This is 42. This is 52. And 8 is 60. That's how you get your 60 points. Otherwise, you end up with 10, 16, 16 and 5 is 21, 26, 27, 28. It's a big difference between 28 points and 60 points. Big difference in your grade. So that's why I say that. Okay. Any questions about it? Oh, absolutely. Okay, let me ask you a question. If it's APA formatted, does that mean cover page? Aha, see, you answered your own question. So yes, APA, when soon as we say APA formatted, that automatically tells you several things. Cover page, double space, Romans, what? Oh, okay. Well, the flyer is going to be one thing, but then there's going to be a cover page. Just like you write a paper, you have a cover page for the paper. You should have a standard noodle cover page that you can just change the title on it. Do you have one of those? Ah, that's what I thought. So just use that. Use that. And it's word formatted so you could change it. So there we go. And really, the only thing you should have to change in this one class is the title every week. And that's it. Okay. Or any information that relates to week one, whatever assignment is. But anyway, the title is the key thing, and then whatever week that the assignment's in. Okay. So you have that. So you can use that over and over and over, and you can copy it and throw it on top of your written assignment. Don't make yourself work too much more than you have to. All right. Anything else? You're good? Okay. I hope other people looking at it the same way. Good, because if they can't comment because they're not here, but they can call me and text me. But a lot of times, I'm going to be honest when I say this, I have students that call me and text me, and I know that they didn't look at the recording because the questions they ask me, I answer in the recording. And so I don't be rude with them. I just say, please go back and listen to the recording. Say, oh, I listened to it a couple of times. I didn't get it. I'm sorry. I apologize to you. I'm not trying to be rude, but I take a lot of time in my lectures to make sure that students understand the assignments. You know why? Because most of your grade is your assignments, not just your attendance. And so I pride myself in that. Okay. So anyway, yeah. So APA, and every time you hear APA, boom, you can automatically um, cover page. Romans 12, the font size, the double space. You can also recognize and understand that citations in the body. We talked about that during week one. Cite your sources. You remember that academic integrity video? You remember that? Cite your sources. If you didn't remember it, it's in here for you to pull up anytime you want. Citations in the body, and it says and references at the end. So we make sure that students understand that. Okay, and then your citations should match your cover page. Okay, I got to move on because I want to make sure we have enough time for this video. All right, and then okay, we making sure that it is again a Word document. Please, please don't submit to me a PDF because you're going to get a 0, and then you're going to have a chance to do it. And then there are students that say, oh, I didn't notice this until week 6. That I say, too late now. Okay. And then your quiz that you have every week. And please, I had some students that have the final exam that I have to, they have fill in the blanks and stuff like that. And I've had students that they give themselves away that they violated the academic misconduct policy because they'll copy and paste information in the answer, and I'll zero them out and tell them, I apologize, but you violated the academic misconduct policy. You are, and remember, once again, referring back to that video, when you take and complete written assignments or tests, make sure that the professor has authorized you to use material. We don't authorize you to use materials for tests and quiz. These are closed book. You're not supposed to have stickies on your wall and stuff like that. I'm telling you the truth. You've got to learn how, just like if you were in the classroom. If you were physically in the classroom, you remember the old thing, clear your desk, put stuff in your desk or under your desk, and then you take the test. So not be like some of my friends who got caught with spelling tests, putting the words on their hands. Just a quick story. One of my friends that used to do that, he ended up years later having to call me because I was a criminal lawyer because he got caught. And I reminded him, I said, man, I remember when we were in a lower grade in school. I think we might have been in seventh grade or something. Wasn't even in low grade. Yeah, because that's where I met him. Or was it might have been even eighth grade, but it wasn't high school. And I remember, and I said, man, you cheated on the test in school. And that's why you in the situation you're in. I tell you, man, you got to be honest. Because integrity in the classroom extends to integrity in the other areas of your life. That's it. That's it. I have to get on to my soapbox about that because I don't, and I have to pound. I have to pound because I'm serious. I cannot stand liars and cheaters. I just don't like them. You know why? Because you can't trust them. And guess what? In criminal justice, if you're operating that vein, you're going to end up on the other side of the bars with the people that you're trying to help. That's a true statement. I've seen it happen. So anyway, I just say it, because I haven't had one student of mine that have so far that I know of that have found themselves in that situation. But I pride myself on uh, uh, doing that. I remember once when somebody tried to set me up, man, and I got in trouble with the bar, and I went downtown. I had to fight for my license. And then I finally told them, I said, look, I says, they cleared me. And then I says, incidentally, I'm retiring anyway, so you can take me off the rolls. I'm going to be doing ministry. And that was in 2000. Actually, it was 1999, but in 2000 is when I started. I can't tolerate that. There was somebody working for me that did this. And so anyway, the point of the matter is that it's just not good. Okay. If you got kids, you want to teach them that too. And guess what? You should be the example for them. All right. Professor Wright, got to do it. I do remind you guys that we have this great tool called the Drug and Crime Resources Guide, that it is really one of the great resources that you have in terms of being able to find information. Run the Adobe Flash and allow it. It will, there you go, open it up for finding newspaper articles and things like that as well. I do tell you that there is another source that is really good. And that source is let me see if it's in here. School of Justice Studies. Maybe if I click on this, will I see it? Yeah, to our School of Justice Studies guide. And if you go to paralegal and click fast case, this is an awesome resource that one of my students who's a paralegal, where you could find laws, cases, statutes, regulations, court rules, and constitutions from all 50 states, as well as federal coverage. Remember, part of your assignment this week is to be able to do that. So this is a place where you can find things like that. And they said it's very good. I've never used it, but it goes down and it deals with, well, anyway, you don't have to deal with this, but fast case. That's what you want to deal with. Very, very, very important user guide. Finding cases, finding statutes, finding regulations. It helps you out with that. Awesome. Awesome. I kind of looked at that and I thanked my student who's a paralegal in one of my classes. She brought that to my attention. I think she's in my constitutional law class. So utilize this, guys. Utilize it. Okay. Let's go into the course content. And I want to go through drug precursors. what we're talking about pretty much here is not marijuana, not cocaine, nor heroin, because they're plant-based. But we're talking about things like methamphetamine, which you guys are very familiar with, which is man-made. That, as it says, it's cooked, and includes things like paint thinner and all drain cleaner, battery acid. Think about this is going into your body. That would make you act crazy. Okay, and um, uh, pseudoephedrine and ephedrine medicine, cold medicine stuff going into your body. And so it changes the makeup of these things. Now, what has happened is that because some of these commonly, um, um, you can buy some of these things separate, that in the drugstore and things like that, or in places, they actually have a control based on a law where you have to sign if you seem like you're buying it regularly. Because if you're buying it regularly, the only reason you're buying it is probably you're a drug precursor, you're a cooker of this stuff. And I was the village attorney, uh, police. This is what I was talking about. Your state has laws restricting the purchase of these items, which are basically cold medicine and stuff like that, um, because of the fact that it's used in creation of methamphetamine. And so this is when it happened in 2005 with the Combat Methamphetamine Epidemic Act. And notice what it says. It requires retailers of the selling of non-prescription products such as pseudoephedrine, ephedrine, phenphosphamine, and place these behind the counter or in a locked cabinet. You've seen that before. Man, I used to be able to get that stuff right. Go pick it up off shelf. Nope, because and then what happens is that you have to sign a book for the purchases. And so that's one of the attempts to control it. All right, remember that one. And then dealing with synthetic drugs. Synthetic drugs are also manufactured through plants, chemicals, starting with plant, but it is sold like this. It looks like this. It's called K2 spice. It looks like candy, but you'll see. Let me tell you, the next time you go to some gas stations, and you don't really see it too much at the big chains. I don't see it at my Thornton or my Shells, um, or BP's or something. You might find it at some of your smaller gas stations, and then you might find it, and it's behind the glass usually. But these are items that are from China, and they are they're dangerous, and it can cause people to take trips. I don't mean the kind of trips you want to take. Road trips, not the kind of road trips that you want to take, where you're out of your mind, where you just turn. Anyway, that's we have laws to try to deal with that. These synthetic cannabinoids, and these are street names, K2 and Spice, can be purchased. You can actually Google it on the internet, and you can order it, people, but it deals with, let me show you the kind of things that it does. Elevated heart rate. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. And you know why? People will use that. You know why they'll use that instead of the other? Do you know? You said, wait a minute. Yep, that's it. You answered it. You answered. It doesn't show up on drug tests. That is the reason why. However, you know yourself from personal experience. Thank you for sharing that. That it's devastating. It is. It is. It's. You know what it reminds me of? It's like living to me, I'm gonna just be honest when I say this. I have to be honest. It's like what we're dealing with in our country with this election thing. I've never seen this. Well, that puts you in the same vein of a person living in your house. Is that they're out of character, right? Didn't your dad act out of character after taking that stuff? Didn't he act out of character? Yeah, yeah, he was crazy. That's not his normal character, I don't think. But my point being is that here's what happens, people, is that these things take and they restructure the brain. I am 70. My mind is sharp. You know why? My brain has not had alcohol in it, nor has it had any kind of drugs except prescription drugs. And even some of them I'm very careful about, like painkillers. I'm very, very, oh, we'll talk about this later in the course. But the steps, the gateway that people use, painkillers that end up on opioids and so forth and so on. But again, we'll talk about that later. But the fact of the matter is that these are some dangerous things. And so Schedule 1, Controlled Substance Act, 43 states and counting have taken action to control one or more of these cannabinoids. And, you know, prior to 2010, they were not controlled by any state. Now, at least 44 states have taken action to control one or more. But guess what? It's kind of hard to, the internet, you can get all kinds of stuff on the internet anyway. Bath salts is another thing. This is something that's really, really, really bad. It's the street name for these drugs, and oftentimes they're labeled as plant food or air freshener. Now, don't go getting rid of all the Glade and all the stuff that freshen the air in your house. I'm not talking about that, but there are some things that are mislabeled, and so these things, when ingested orally or smoked, they create agitation, insomnia, instability, dizziness, depression, paranoia, all these things that are right here, delusion, suicidal thoughts, seizures, and panic attacks. There also are attacks like the one they talk about that happened in 2012 in Miami, the zombie attack, where a naked man was high on these bath salts, chewed on the face of a homeless man in an 18-minute attack before being shot by the police. That was the only way they could stop him. It's like a mad dog or something. And so they were called zombie attacks. And then in 2011, before that, the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, issued an order dealing with these issues as well. So we got these things out here that we are dealing with. Okay. So I'm going to do this in just a minute, but you can take time to do this yourself. This is where you take a few minutes. This is you ask these questions, and then you provide an answer, and then you go to the next one. This is to help you. Okay. Now I want to get to, this is one of, I really like this video. And so I'm going to have to take off my headset. I don't know how the quality of sound is going to be with it. Someone told me there's a way I can do it where how to do that yet. So what I do is I just took my headset off, and this is about a, I think it's, let me see how many minutes is it. It's about a 21 minute. So it's close to the end of the time. So I want you to pay close attention. It's going to be closed caption too as well, so that you'll be able to. So there's the ad ins. Okay.
So you have to know that I'll be talking not about my own tragedy, but other people's tragedy. Strategy. So if you make the medium case, meaning from the stress, I understand that based on 10 years of research, the financial goals, the financial methods, but the answer of marketing, other stuff, I think realistically, the selling drugs for me is perhaps the most that's what I think it's so three things I want to do. I first I want to explain central candidates about influence and secondly, I want to some of the now the second elements of the central system. And third, I want to make some official reports on the financial methods. Before I do that, just one warning, which is that this presentation is the Washington Association. Sometimes it's like a third page, a one page. And it has an extension of the page that will be no I'm stuck on one word that functions outside. Okay, so we'll start by talking about practical and how to respond. To do the practical start with that looking at this subject again. Because I'm not saying so that's such a goal. So as a result, as a data rule, but the thing was, so it wasn't one technique. But somehow, this is the last of our then Americans got to be and it wasn't like that. Because technical plans, but if you think about it, I would say that the last 25 years, playing people changes that's a plan. The biggest one in terms of okay, so it works. So what we're looking at okay, as you can start that, it's not it's not a much more efficient and it turned out there was this audience that didn't really want like okay, and it's a perfect drug you can sell for any cocaine for so I found that highly addictive as far as also for 15 minutes of this going on. And I don't know why, and I don't know there's a lot of them. So a lot of them anyway, so the people that I know running again, running to okay, so this is what I mean. Okay, so I don't know what the mechanics and what the person is financial. So sales before it gets to expect arguments of it. It's always this is something two things to the side. And I'm good. Suburban boy who never really been in the inner city beautifully took his clipboard and, walked down to this housing project, gets to the first building. First building? Well, there's nobody there, but he hears some voices up in the stairwell. So he turns up the stairwell, he comes around the corner, finds another brand African like this. This is about 1990, typical apartment. It's very dangerous job. Another ability to support the social original values of the to the sources some of them are not allowed to go over forcing side of trying to get them transits. I think the reason to be some of those which is sanitizers. But those the worker guns, because facts not evidence has not ideals. Don't just like the guns. It's also true. They are the entities. They can expose a problem to confirm a concept. But the name of the game is the magic of the and that makes it possible of the that's a part of the because of one knowledge of the choice as was the next the notion is a right choice Hypothose, the voice of the birds Thursday, the knowledge function, also such a bad job. The reason such a bad job, the simple simulator. So the simulator, one of the buttons, I thought I had done, and I'm not such a to transmission again. It's just came actually became quite successful. So at that time, mathematics like the something because of the model, that's the 7% increase. And the societies were spread to what is our balance of so just for comparison purposes, I think about what has the next statement of service. But that's in the world. And you can think of it in a sense that's not. The government from good warfare, that's the term institution, 10%. So it's a lot safer and real than it's something else on the street. Okay? It makes it part of the subject. It's nice to have a gospel that's going to have a effect. But to give you a sense of just how bad what the scenario is doing to us, what am I talking about? I'm not just talking about whales, but what is an extent like what? If you look at the Bible, it's just a random, well-recognized word of the side, for instance. That works. Democrat, it's just a this is it's just a
Well, this was a very interesting video, and I always tell my students, you can go back and look at it again. I was the village attorney in a town called Ford Heights in Illinois. It was called the crack cocaine capital of the South Suburbs. I was also a police officer in that town. And I can tell you that everything that he said actually operates that way. I also happen to be from Chicago, and I know the housing projects that he's talking about that's torn down now. But the fact of the matter is that individuals are enticed to get out there and deal with crack cocaine. And one of the things that has actually turned gangs more violently was the inclusion of crack cocaine, very cheap high. Where I was the village attorney, they took many houses that were exploded or caught fire because they were cooking crack cocaine in the houses, and there were many crack cocaine dealers. I can also tell you that as I was a attorney and I represented gangs, that there was a gang called the Black Gangster Disciples in Chicago, and they still are, and a guy named Larry Hoover, who went to prison. And Larry, I believe, is still in prison. But guess what? His family has a lot of wealth because he remains at the top for, I mean, years and years and years. And it's just like what they were saying is that you got these dealers out here, these people that look like they're doing it. And like you said, they look like they're wearing Mr. T stuff, look like, but it's fake. It's not real. And then these wads of money that these people have, sometimes there's, and they operate, the denomination of crack and drug dealing is 20s. And so as a result of that, uh, they were able to get monies. So 20s were like 2 dime bags, and a dime is $10. And so anyway, and then a nickel bag was $5. So the point of the matter is that I saw these people. We arrested people in that town. I didn't defend people in that town because I couldn't, because it would be a conflict of interest. But I defended people outside of that town. But the point of the matter is that that video that you just saw a few minutes ago is one of the systematic problems of crack, and that they're very, like I said, some of these people, man, they could, if they went to school and got MBAs and stuff like that, they could run some of these Fortune 500 companies rather. But the truth of the matter is that it's, like I said, it's very dangerous because people are shooting at you and all kinds of things like that. People are supplementing their income, and they're making a little more than $3.50 now an hour, but it's still low. And notice at the top, and the leaders, the chairman of the board and the board of directors, the people that actually operate the organization, and then, like you said, they have their VPs that are the people who run the territories around the country and around the area. And when they were talking about the person who had the Iowa franchise, what he was really saying is that it's not easy to do business out there in Iowa, okay? And if you know about the demographics of Iowa, you know why I said that. But the truth of the matter is that in urban areas around the country, it's easy to operate these type of activities, and now it's reached the suburban communities as well. But it's pretty rampant in the urban communities. Almost every day, the news opens up with someone being shot. Well, you can almost inevitably discover that when an innocent person, like a kid or somebody that has nothing to do with the gangs, is shot, it's because of a gang battle happening or some retaliation, or somebody fighting for territory control and things like that. So, but this is very important for you to be aware of dealing with crack dealing. One of the things that I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to make this statement now, and I'm going to wrap up in a minute here, is that there is a real correlation, and you can quote me on this, between crime and drugs. That's why the course is called Drugs and Crime. People commit crimes to support their drug habits. And, we talk about how, you can deal with recidivism and you can rehabilitate people. We talk about that a lot in the introduction to corrections. However, I make it quite clear that unless you get to the root of what the issue is, and oftentimes it's drugs. I personally know about crack cocaine in terms of not just my professional experience, but my baby sister in 1994 overdosed on cocaine. And one of the hardest jobs I ever had was standing over her body and eulogizing her and committing her to the earth. So I have, and many of you know of individuals or family members who have succumbed to crack cocaine. And it's an easy high because they talk about how easy, and I remember when I was in the police academy and we dealt with the training, is that you get an amount of this crack real cheap, you smoke it, and you get to the habit where it takes you on a trip to a high that you never lived. And then after that, then you spend the rest of your life trying to get to that high again. But what you do is you get there and it's like nothing. You have to go higher. And so as a result, the dose increases that you utilize, and that's what happened with ODs. And what really happens, I saw a video of what really happens. Your heart in your body literally explodes, like if you blew up a balloon. It does that. It explodes, and then you of course go into cardiac arrest, and then you die shortly after. So anyway, those are just a few things. So I will be back next week at the same time, and I want to give you a key phrase that you can use to get your points, and that's crack cocaine. Give me that, and you get your points for this week. Be sure to put them in the drop-down box. Don't send them to me in an email. Don't say, oh, well, you're here already. Some students say, oh, I was there. I said, but then you got to still put it in because it's an assignment. It's under, when it says live lecture, you have a drop-down box. You type in the phrase or comment or whatever, and then submit it just like you do any other assignment, except for it's not a PDF doc. But anyway, I'm sorry, it's not a Word doc that you submitting. Take that word PDF out of my mouth. So I have said everything I need to say tonight. Again, went a little over because that video is so, yeah, he had a seizure and almost died. Yep, that's what happens with drugs, period. You're talking about that spice and that stuff like that. But It's a serious thing. It does things to families, and brilliant minds I've seen people who are lawyers use that stuff, judges, doctors, um, other professionals, professors. So, all right. Anything? Any questions? Okay. Well, I'm going to say good night. I will see you next week. Thanks for coming out tonight, and see you next Wednesday as we Thanksgiving Eve um, do this next lecture, week 3. So good night. Stay safe.